بسم الله. Parasites, parasitism and host relations. دي أول محاضرة كintroduction للطفيليات أو لعلم الطفيليات الطبية. هنبدأ دلوقتي أول سلايد عن This can be diagrammed by this feature. This can be diagrammed by this feature, which shows that this is the host and this is the commensal. The commensal always is smiling, he's getting benefit. This one is not affected. This one is not affected as we see. In case of parasitic, we can see that the hoster or the one who gives is affected, and this one is getting benefit and is smiling. Also, this is mutualistic. Both are smiling and both are agreeing with each other. Now we can have an idea about the types of parasites. There is obligate parasite, which is parasiting during its whole life cycle. From the beginning of its life cycle till the end, he is parasitic. We have also facultative parasite, which can undergo a free-living life cycle, but at the same time, it can be parasitic if it finds its host. The host is the creature who's protecting the parasite and giving him feeding. There is also an intermediate between the previous two, which is temporary parasite, which is partly parasitic during a part of its life cycle and can be free living in the rest of its life cycle. These will have some examples afterwards about them, but we must know the names or the types of these parasites as we see them. We can also have, according to the place which the parasite lives in the host, we have endoparasites which live inside the host, and also ectoparasites which live outside the body of the host or on the body of the host. Some type of these ectoparasites, which is intermittent parasite. Intermittent parasite means a parasite which doesn't live in or outside the host, but visits the host at intervals, like mosquitoes in the moose بتاعنا, which sometimes they are called micro predators because they have minimal or tiny feeding from the host and visit the host at intervals, but they live free in the environment. So we have here The obligate parasite, this is the parasite which lives whole life cycle، يعني عايش حياته كلها inside a host and it can't live outside in the environment. There is facultative parasite which can undergo a free living life cycle، أو عايش حياته في الانفايرمنت، بس لو لقى الهوست بتاعه يتطفل عليه، لو ما لقاهوش هو قادر يعيش من غيره. ده اللي هو في نوع من الديدان احنا هناخده اسمه سترونجيلايدس ستيركوراليس. ستيركوراليس يعني عايشة في التربة، ودي بتبقى موجودة بره في التربة، لو لقت الإنسان تتطفل عليه، لو ما لقيتوش اهي عايشة حياتها وتمام التمام. في temporary parasites which are partly parasitic but can undergo free living in the next stage of life cycle. These like some larvae of insects which are parasitic on the host and they can cause what we call meiosis أو التدود بتاع الجروح مثلا، وبعد كده لما تتحول إلى adult بتعيش حياتها free في الانفايرمنت. كمان عندنا زي ما قلنا according to the place of parasitism in the host, we have endoparasite which lives inside the host، زي مثلا الديدان اللي بتعيش في أمعاء الإنسان، دي endoparasites. Ectoparasites which live outside or on the body of the host، زي مثلا أنواع من الأوراد، أو ممكن برضو أنواع من الحشرات زي اللايس مثلا، دي طول عمرها عايشة على السكين بتاع الهوست، cannot live بعيدا عن الهوست، يعني هي obligate parasite بس عايشة outside the host طول عمرها، ما بتدخلش جوه الجسم بتاع الهوست بتاعها. بعد كده في عندنا الانترميتنت باراسايتس زي الناموس مثلا، او الحشرات اللي بتقرص ناموس، براغيث بق whatever، دي بتعيش بره، ما بتعيش على جسم الانسان خالص، لكن بتيجي تاخد البلاد ميل بتاعتها وترجع تاني تعيش بره. Now we see the classes of parasites or types of parasites according to localization. We have ectoparasites, we have endoparasites, and also the endoparasites can be divided into coelozoic, which live in the cavities of the body as intestinal parasites, for example. Also, intracellular parasites, which can live inside the cells and cannot live except inside the cells. For example, we have the malarial parasites inside the RBCs. Also, there is histozoic parasites which are living in the tissues but not in the cavities, like some parasites like those of trypanosomes. Trypanosomes live outside the body but in the blood. Live outside the cells but in the blood. They are never intracellular. These live in tissues only. We call them histozoic parasites. So we have ectoparasites, endoparasites, coelozoic parasites, intracellular parasites, and histozoic parasites. Now we have something we call adaptation to parasitism. How the parasite adapts itself inside the host and to the parasitic way of living. So we have morphologic adaptations that the parasite can give way to some internal organs inside its body, the organs which are not necessary to parasitic existence are lost. As an example, we have the tinea worms. As an example, they don't have digestive tract because they live in the small intestine, and in the small intestine all the nutrients are well digested, ready for absorption, so they also absorb the nutrients from the intestine without having need, without any need for digestive tract, so they don't have digestive system. Also, some metabolic changes, the parasites cannot synthesize certain necessary cellular components and obtain them from the host. Some parasites like Giardia, Chemicel, they are having the bile salts, they feed on bile salts and they have bile salts from the intestine ready for their digestive material. Also, there are some specialized methods of entrance into the body or tissues as seen in some parasites. يعني مثلا كمثال السركاريا, they have what we call penetration glands. Penetration glands which excrete some materials which can melt part of the skin so they can penetrate the skin. Histolytic or what we call keratolytic material from the penetration glands which are secreted to help the cercaria to penetrate the skin. Also, the small amoebae we have in Amoeba histolytica, they also secrete some we call histolytic or lytic enzymes which can also help them penetrate the mucosa and enter into the submucosa of intestine, feeding on the blood cells and the tissues inside. Also, there is adaptation to overcome host defense mechanism or the immune response of the host to the parasite. The parasite and its excreta are foreign proteins for the host. So the parasite can also undergo some adaptation by overcoming the host defense mechanism, which we call immune evasion. Immune evasion is a big issue which we can study later. Also, there is increased reproductive capacity of parasites to assure infection and sustaining their life cycles for infection of intermediate host or continuation of their life cycle. The reproductive capacity means that one parasite can give rise to many eggs, as we know that Ankylostoma duodenale adult worm can produce 25,000 eggs per day. Also, there is rapid replication of the protozoa, one protozoan can give thousands of protozoa for continuation of their life cycle. The effect of parasite on the host. The parasites have pathogenic effects on the host by many ways. The first is interference with the vital processes of the host through action of secretion, excretion, or other products of the parasite, because they need some nutrients during for their respiration or for their growth or for their replication. They take it from the host, and also the effect, this effect is by secreting something for lysis, excretions which are harmful to the host cells, also other products of the parasite. Invasion or destruction of host tissue. The parasite, while feeding, it can invade and destroy the host tissues for its feeding and for its replication. This occurs as an example in malaria. They feed on the hemoglobin inside the RBCs, and they make the RBCs later burst and there is hemolysis. Also, amoebae, which invade the intestinal cells and feed on the intestinal mucosa, causing its destruction. Also, deprivation of host essential substances. They need these essential substances for their growth and their replication. So they take it from the host and in big quantities, which may affect the host, like some worms feed on the intrinsic factor of vitamin B12, so they can cause vitamin B12 deficiency, and also this can result in megaloblastic anemia for the host. The malarial parasites, we say that they feed on hemoglobin, so they can cause anemia for the host. I have to know the effects of host on the parasite. The host doesn't stay calm while the parasite is having its nutrients from him. So there are some natural factors which have affecting the parasitism, and also there are some acquired according to previous infection. The genetic constitution of the host, it is what we call racial immunity. Some races of humans have some factors which prevent their infection with parasites. As an example, the Duffy blood group, which can prevent the host from having malaria. The diet and nutritional status of the host. The diet and nutritional status affects the pathogenic factors of the parasite. Those people with good diet and good nutrition, they can minimize the pathogenic effect of the host, especially intestinal parasites. Also, there is some people which depend on starch on their diet. In their diet, may be affected with some parasites that don't affect the people who have mainly proteins in their diet. Every species of animals is naturally resistant to parasites affecting different species, which is species immunity. Species immunity is exemplified by that some parasites of animals don't affect men, and also some human parasites don't affect animals. Acquired immunity can be seen in many parasitic diseases, but at a lower level than that produced by bacteria and viruses. Viruses and bacteria may give solid immunity that once infected does not have the infection forever or for long, but in parasitic diseases he may have the infection but to a less severity. So we can see this, that children have diarrheas, parasitic diarrheas, they have parasitic infections more than the adults, which can have the parasite but they seem not affected from it. The role of many leukocytes like lymphocytes and eosinophils in resistance of parasitic infection. This is very important because this is the building of immunity against parasites and immune reactions against parasites, and this will be discussed also like with the immune response of to parasites. Parasites in the immunocompromised host. This is a special entity we will study because many people become immunocompromised in our new era due to that they may have some immune deficiency diseases. Also, they to may have drugs which depress their immunity. For example, for those who have autoimmune diseases and those who have cancer chemotherapy, those who have steroids for treatment of any other diseases, all these categories have suppressed immunity or suppressed immune response against infective agents like bacteria, viruses, or parasites. Um, this special entity, the immune suppression or decrease in immunity due to many factors, as we say. Another type of immunocompromise is the acquired immune deficiency syndrome, the AIDS, which is increasing in prevalence. Also, this makes the patients suffer from special infections which naturally cannot produce severe symptoms and are self-limited. They end by themselves without treatment. These we call opportunistic infections. Opportunistic infections doesn't seem to affect the normal people, but affect the immunocompromised hosts. We'll study some of these opportunistic parasites during the course of parasitology. This also allows many parasitic infections to be severe, like intestinal giardiasis becomes very severe and flourishes in immunocompromised hosts. Life cycles of parasites. The life cycles of parasites are either direct life cycle, which have a single host being transferred by direct contact with infected persons or their utensils, their excreta, or by resistant forms of the parasites that can stay for a while outside the host. Also, other parasites are transmitted by arthropod vectors. These arthropods are either mechanical or biological vectors. Mechanical vectors means that they carry the infective stages as they are from one place to another, like from excreta to food of the patients, while in case of biological vectors, the parasite undergoes a life cycle, part of its life cycle inside the arthropod. So they call biological vectors. Um, Parasites may acquire more than one host to complete the life cycle. So we consider the one that of the host a definitive host, and the other we call intermediate host. The definitive host carries the sexual or adult forms of the parasite, while the intermediate host harbors the asexual or the larval stages of the parasite. So according to the life cycle of the parasites, we have also definitive host, as we said, intermediate host, and also we have reservoir host, which is the animal in which the parasite undergoes the life cycle the same as in man. That we call reservoir host, and it is very important in case of many parasitic diseases because we must also see and get rid of the reservoir host to get rid of the infection from a locality. Also, the accidental or incidental host, which is unusual host in which the parasite can develop and continue its life cycle. Man can be an accidental host for some parasites, as we'll study later. Paratenic host is the host carrying the parasite in an arrested state of development. It carries a stage of the parasite, for example, in the larval stage, and the parasite can continue its life cycle after leaving it. This is exemplified, or we can give an example for this by some some worms, which we call Diphyllobothrium latum. The larval stage of this worm is present in small fish. So we know naturally إن الإنسان مش هياكل السمك الصغير، هو بيحب ياكل السمكة الكبيرة، فالسمكة الصغيرة هي اللي بتاخد اللارفال ستيج. في الحالة دي هتعتبر باراتينيك هوست، على أساس إنها بتاخد اللارفال ستيج وتحافظ عليها جواها. لما تاكلها السمكة الكبيرة اللي هياكلها الإنسان، هتنتقل اللارفال ستيج دي living, continuing its life cycle from the small fish to the large fish. بعد كده لما يجي الإنسان ياكل السمكة الكبيرة بالطريقة دي، هياخد اللارفال ستيج وهياخد الانفكشن. عشان كده بنقول إن السمكة الصغيرة دي تعتبر باراتينيك هوست. برضو هناخد أمثلة للباراتينيك هوست أثناء دراسة some other parasites. ترانسبورت هوست، ده غير الباراتينيك هوست. الباراتينيك هوست قلنا بيحافظ على الحاجة جواه in a stage, in arrested stage of development inside it, and can give it to another animal or another host and continue the life cycle. The transport host carries the infective stage from one place to another on or in its body. Transport host ده للحيوانات اللي بتنقل الانفكتيف ستيج، مش الحشرات. الحشرات بنقول عليه mechanical vector. نفس الكلام، ده عبارة عن حيوان هياخد مثلا الاكس بتاعة بارازايت وياخدها جواه، وهتعدي منه في الانتستين بتاعته، وهتمشي لغاية ما يوصل مكان تاني موجود فيه الهوست نفسه، يروح منزل الاكسكريتا بتاعته وينقل الانفكشن للهوست. برضو ممكن ياخد الحاجة on its hairs مثلا وينقلها another host.